welcome back to my channel. Today I have part 3 of the many faces of love. I'm so excited to get into this with you. If you are new to my channel, welcome to Eileen Into Spirit. My name is Eileen. I'm a spiritual advisor, intuitive coach, and I provide you with guidance, wisdom, and inspiration every week right here on this channel. Let's get into the message. Okay, Spirit fam, so today is part 3 of the many faces of love. I hope you all have really been enjoying this series. We have a few more parts to go through, but today we're gonna really go a little bit deeper into part 1 and part 2. So in part 2, we primarily discussed the need or the desire that one experiences when wanting to be in a relationship. And the things that we mostly focused on are, do we know what we want in a relationship? Do we have any idea of what our intention is when we're wanting to be in a relationship? And what I mean by that is, do we have a clear understanding of what we're desiring and what we're wanting to bring in? Do we know what that feels like? Do we know what ideally that specific relationship looks like to us? And when we can truly identify that, we then can identify our intention, right? Our purpose for wanting to be in a relationship. We also learned in part 2 that healing is vital to having a successful relationship. And the reason why healing is so important in a relationship is that a lot of times when we get into any specific type of relationship, we bring in certain amount of wounding. Even if we've been in previous relationships, we're still bringing in what I like to call burdens, right? Or baggage. We're bringing stuff into another relationship. We have to learn to be illuminated by love. We have to really allow ourselves to examine past relationships to really see where our wounding originates from, where it's coming from, so that we know how to properly heal it and not bring those past woundings into another fresh relationship. And when we're examining those past relationships, it's not about reliving the pain. What it's really about is helping us identify, what did we learn from that experience? What was that individual specifically trying to teach us? Okay. We also have to recognize that our wounding originates from one specific place. Okay. Past wounds affect our perceptions and our actions. Those woundings that we carry with us from relationship to relationship to relationship ultimately change the way that we feel, the way that we think, the way that we respond to any given situation that we encounter when it comes to relationships. And the last thing that we learned in part 2 was recognizing that we become the stories that we tell, recognizing that we are the storyteller of our life. We are the author of our own story. So today, what we're going to be discussing is, we're going to be discussing a little bit more in-depth detail about relationships in general. The first thing I want to point out is that we gain so much wisdom going through specific experiences. So when we gain that wisdom, we're ultimately understanding that we have to be able to go through certain experiences to garner that wisdom or to gain that wisdom. Without that experience, we wouldn't have the knowledge. We wouldn't have the understanding of why things transitioned the way that they did, especially when we're in the moment. When we are in the moment, we don't always understand the reasoning behind actions or why things transpire the way that they do, okay? What I want you to understand is that the experiences that you have help you identify many truths that lie within you, okay? And those truths ultimately help you identify what it is you're truly desiring. The beauty of this is that without having the experience or the understanding or recognizing that something isn't in alignment, okay? If you are if you are basically experiencing something that doesn't feel right, it feels negative or it feels off, that is because there is something out of alignment. The truth that you have about some experience isn't in alignment with your soul truth, okay? The experiences that we encounter help us understand how often we've had those experiences, because recognize that in every relationship, if you take inventory of every relationship that you've had, and I want to point out that this is relationships in general. This isn't just about love relationships. This is relationships in general, okay? When you actually take inventory of the relationships that you've had, you begin to see patterns, right? You begin to see that you've experienced a certain experience. You have actually gone through a specific experience more than once, right? And it's all because it's all about the same lesson. It's all about having to learn to identify that truth that is out of alignment within you, okay? Now, when you recognize that pattern, when you recognize that, what you're discovering is that there are lessons wrapped up in that. You're actually noticing the repeated patterns that have been occurring in your life. A very big example of this is going to be on, from my own personal experience, on abandonment. Now, in my first relationship with my one and only boyfriend, I really felt a sense of abandonment and betrayal from him. But it wasn't until later on in the years when I recognized that I had a very big specific pattern when it came to men, especially men, that a lot of the men that I tended to associate myself with, or that I tend to gravitate towards, were men who ultimately abandoned me or betrayed me, right? And when you start to really evaluate, as I mentioned earlier, taking inventory of those relationships and really asking yourself, what did this teach me? What was I meant to learn having gone through this experience? I recognized that all of these relationships with these men really stemmed from the first and only time I ever felt abandoned from a man in my life. And that was from my father. You will begin to understand and you will begin to see that it all originates from one point. And when you can identify what that point is, that I often like to refer to it as the root. It is the root cause of a specific effect. Okay? And when that happens, you then start to understand. You understand at such great depths as to why you're experiencing that same pattern over and over and over again. And once you identify that pattern, it's like the moment that you identify it, you automatically start to make significant changes in your life. You automatically start to recognize, well, this happened because this happened. And it was because, one, I compromised myself. I didn't allow myself to speak my truth or voice my opinion. But then when I think about it, what was my truth? Well, I wasn't living my truth because I was too busy trying to accommodate someone else's needs or desires before my own. So I compromised my truth for someone else's truth. And I think that when you start to really pinpoint down to the root cause of things, you really start to understand the whole dynamic. And that is when you begin to make change, my friends. That is when you ultimately begin to make changes. So first and foremost, recognize that you gain so much wisdom through specific experiences. But in order for you to heal, you have to look at every single experience and examine it like you're examining it through a microscope. You're dissecting it piece by piece, layer by layer, to truly allow yourself the opportunity to see it from a whole new lens, a whole new experience, to recognize that the issue originated from one point, one root. Okay? Now, when we go through relationships, it's important that you understand that relationships is the relationships, having that experience within a relationship is truly about identifying your authentic self, right? The reason why we get into relationships is because we're trying to identify who we are with other people, right? And I feel that one of the biggest things, one of the biggest misunderstandings about relationships is that we are meant to please other people, right? And that's not really what this is. What relationships, what it was specifically designed for, was to help you recognize how people experience their own truth in union with other people. It's about you recognizing that when two people are in a relationship, they each have their own truth that they have to align to. And when they can truly come into union, or when they can come into a balanced, harmonious relationship, they can then express their authentic truth by not compromising who they are, but still learning to love each other unconditionally in their truth. That, my friend, is what the whole truth and reality of relationships is. It's about you understanding that all relationships teach you something. They teach you about yourself, right? Not only do you learn lessons from going through these relationships, but you learn so much about who you are as a person, right? And I feel a lot of times, especially when we're young, we're so impressionable. We look at other individuals and we see them and we're like, I want to be just like that, right? Especially now, we live in an age where so many children are seeing YouTubers on YouTube and they're wanting to aspire to be like them, right? They're impressionable. They're wanting to become that, but they're sort of not understanding the whole truth, okay? And that is very much like relationships. We don't often show who we are authentically to other individuals because we're afraid of being judged. We're afraid of being persecuted. We're afraid of individuals not truly liking who we are once they discover the truth of who we are. But the beauty behind this, my friends, is that you must learn to love and honor yourself first before you can love and honor someone else. Understand that these relationships, they are all built, they are all in your life to help you learn to love, honor, and accept yourself in your authentic truth, exactly as you are. Now, when you're in relationships, any discord, any discommunication, anything that is doesn't feel right? When you have that sense of discord, or you compromise yourself, right? What is actually happening is you are out of alignment with who you are at the core. You're out of alignment with your authentic self. You're not in alignment with your higher self. And I will tell you that the main reason why most relationships fail is because there is so much discord, or there is compromising going on between two individuals, okay? And it's because everybody is wanting to be right. Everyone is wanting it to be their way, okay? And it's not so much about compromising as it is about honoring who you are, what you feel, and what you believe in your own right, while also honoring and accepting someone where they are, right? That's the whole point. The whole point of this series, my friends, is to help you understand the dynamics of a higher standard of love. This higher standard of love, of true, genuine, unconditional love. And I want you to understand that this discord, or when you compromise yourself, right? That is the main reason why there's so much, it's the reason why so many relationships fail, right? And it's because you're out of alignment with who you are. You're out of alignment with your authentic self, right? And what I want you to understand is that, and I've said this before, the truth will always reveal itself, right? Your authentic truth will always reveal itself to you, right? And it reveals itself to you by making you feel like It makes you, it's when you start to feel like you're not worthy, or you don't feel like you are good enough, right? Because you're desiring to be like someone else. There was always this phrase I had, and I don't remember where this phrase came from, but I've always allowed this phrase to stick with me through the years. And the phrase was always, you always want to be your true, authentic self. The world already has one of everybody else, right? And my phrase is, you need to learn to be authentically you, because nobody wants a cookie cutter version of someone else. And that is the phrase, my friends. You need to learn to be who you are and to honor who you are. Don't be afraid about letting others see you authentically. And I feel that's the real issue here, is that sometimes we hide aspects of ourselves from other people because we don't want other people to see us for who we really are, because we're afraid of what might happen if they did. Now, recognize that when you're in a relationship with someone, and remember, this is any kind of relationship, recognize that we are mirrors for each other. And what I mean by that is that Carl Jung once said that everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. See, the reality, my friends, is whenever you have any kind of discord, or if you have someone in your life that frustrates you, that angers you, that upsets you, you must understand that they are mirroring to you the same qualities and characteristics that you have. And that is, they're reflecting it back to you, because that is your authentic self's way of having you see face to face the things that you don't like about yourself. I really want you to just sort of understand that a little bit. The whole reason as to why most spiritual people, or most, light workers call it shadow work, is because the shadow part are the dark aspects of yourself that you often hide, right? It's the mask. It's what's behind the mask, right? I like calling it climbing the mountain of self, because a mountain is often viewed as challenges, it's obstacles, right? And when we discover certain qualities or characteristics that we don't like about ourselves, we tend to hide those things. It's so much easier for us to hide it behind a mask and pretend like it doesn't exist within us. But in reality, we see it in other people. The things that we don't like within ourselves are reflected back to us through other individuals. That, my friends, is the reason why those individuals are in your life. They're in your life because they're revealing the truth to you. Remember when I said the truth will always reveal itself to you. And so when you come into contact with these relationships and they're mirroring these things, and you find yourself irritated and frustrated and just wanting, anger, whatever it is, this is when you take a step back and you really ask yourself, what is this person teaching me? Why do I get so frustrated when they do X, Y, Z, right? Because again, remember, if it's truly triggering you in that way, there is something in what they do that resides within you that is not in alignment with your truth, right? So what I want you to understand, why does this happen, right? Why do we get triggered by the actions, right, of others? And the reason is because we're not facing our truth. And I've always said that when you're facing your own mirror, you can't hide from the truth, right? Because the truth will always reveal itself to you. Remember what I said, that mirror, when you're facing it from another person, when that other person is standing in front of you and it irritates you or it frustrates you or it makes you mad, that mirror is reflecting the truth to you. And the truth will always, always set you free, as long as you allow yourself to explore the depths of that, okay? Now, understand that truth doesn't need convincing. If you're trying to convince yourself that something is truthful, then it isn't your truth. It's simply a truth of someone else, right? Because the truth will always feel satisfying and fulfilling to you. There is nothing else but the truth. Now, I want you to also recognize that when you are in, say, a love relationship and a separation happens, okay? And a lot of times I get the question, as a reader, I get the question, you know, when will I find love again? Or when will love come back into my life? And this could be from, like, you know, people, you know, you could be in a separation for as little as 3 months, or could be in separation for as long as 3 years, okay? Here's what I need you to understand. Recognize that every period in your life, every period, every experience is meant and is there in your life in the moment that is meant to be there. Understand that if you're going through a separation, if you're going through a large break between one relationship and the next, what you are meant to do in that aspect, not only heal from previous woundings, truly allow yourself to reflect on the shadow aspects of yourself and climb that mountain of self, but what you're meant to do is you're meant to learn to master yourself. Master yourself in the perspective of truly understanding yourself, understanding what your authentic self truly is, and being comfortable with just yourself, realizing that all you need is yourself. You don't need anybody else to make you happy. And I'm telling you now, my friends, if you truly feel in your heart that you need someone else in your life to make you happy, then you're not doing the work. You're not doing the work that Spirit has put before you, because happiness only resides within you. You're the only one that can make yourself happy. And this is really about learning to discover yourself, learning to discover who you are, to love and honor yourself where you are, exactly who you are. Understand that there is no right or wrong. Okay? And this is where this gets a little bit confusing, and where a lot of people sort of tend to get lost. And they get lost in this aspect because there is no right or wrong. There's only cause and effect. There's only action or reaction, right? The choices and the decisions that we make build our future and our present moment. The decisions that we made in the past build our present. The decisions that we make in the present build our future. When I say there is no right or wrong, what that truly means is that whatever action that you take, there is a reaction for it. Whatever cause that occurs, there is an effect from that specific cause. So I need you to understand that. I need you to understand that there is no right way, there is no wrong way, there is no right relationship, there is no wrong relationship. This is truly about identifying the depths of who you are, right? So Spirit is really trying to get you to connect with that higher aspect of you. Spirit's really calling you, especially from the heart center when it comes to relationships, because that is where you grow the fastest. It's where you learn the most. It's where you learn to identify who you are, what you're worth, what your value is, and how you can actually represent more aspects of yourself with others. Now, that can possibly be a little bit more difficult for for certain people, because there are many times where I'll always get in a reading, somehow, somewhere, as a reader, I'll always get someone that says, why does this always happen to me? So this is going to be the hardest part for a lot of you to hear and to understand. And it's this: life happens from you, not to you. Understand that you are a creator. What that means is that you create your own reality, my friends. Your thoughts, the ideas that you have, the things that you speak about incessantly, repeatedly, all the time, are crafting your life, your past, your present, and your future. Remember, we discuss this multiple times. I often refer to it as manifestation, law of attraction, right? But it's also in union with the law of cause and effect, right? When you constantly think about life happening to you, the effect that you will receive is more things that are not in alignment with what your heart is desiring. And in this particular aspect, when it comes to relationships, it's no different. To give you a prime example of this, I used to always say repeatedly, why can't people love me the way that I love them? Or I used to always say, people just don't care about me, right? Remember, we become the stories that we tell. So if you constantly tell yourself that nobody loves you, that nobody wants to be with you, that you're going to be single for the rest of your life, you're creating your own reality. You're making it true. You are speaking things into existence. So recognize that the things that you are focusing on is what is creating your reality. So recognize that even if you're going through a period of separation, even if you're not in a relationship and you desperately want to be in one, really ask yourself, how do you really feel about that? Do you really feel like life is happening to you, or is life happening from you? Really asking yourself, what are the thoughts that you constantly keep having? How do you really feel about this separation? How do you really feel about not being with someone? Because the more that you continue to focus on that, the more you continue to bring more of that. Remember, everything is not about God is punishing me, or spirit just isn't hearing me, or what did I do wrong? Like, that's always the one thing that always gets thrown out the most. What did I do wrong? Nobody did anything wrong. The only thing is, you are not in alignment with your authentic truth, and your frequency that you are emitting is not matching what you are desiring, right? We can sit here and say all day long that we desire to be in a relationship, but if what you are feeling isn't matching that frequency, then they're not gonna unite, because the frequency of that sadness that you feel when you're alone is down here, and the frequency of wanting to be in a dynamic relationship is way up here. They will constantly miss each other because they're not on the same level. Okay? You have to begin to focus on the things that make you smile. Focus on the things that bring you joy. Really allow yourself to examine the truth of how you feel, what you think, what you believe when it comes to relationships. Really allow yourself to really look at the deep aspect shadows of yourself and ask yourself, where's the discord? Why do I feel these things? Where is it coming from? Where is it originating from? What is the root? Right? Understand that your thoughts, past, present, and future, okay, are created by the things that you constantly think about, that you speak about, and that you feel. So how do you begin to change this? Ultimately, it's about facing the truth. It's about facing those mirrors that you come into contact with every single day. Allowing yourself to be the devil's advocate and saying, okay, this individual irritates me every time they whine about being alone. Okay, I'm using this as an example. Or when they whine about wanting change, but they're not willing to take the necessary steps, right? So when that happens, that's when you need to examine, okay, where am I doing that same thing in my life? And really being honest with yourself. Because remember, the truth will always reveal itself. And when you can honor the truth in where it is, it will set you free. And you'll begin to notice magnificent changes in your life. It's also important for you to set aside time for yourself, to truly connect with yourself. And this is why I always recommend meditation. Give yourself 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever you have, every single day. Make it a habit. Make it a routine. This is your time to connect with your inner self, with who you are. And allow yourself that time to truly allow yourself to be, to not think about a solution, to not think about the past, to not think about the present, not focus on the future, but to just be, to be still and silent and quiet in that moment. And allow spirit to reveal to you the next step. Even if the only thing you get is nothing. Nothing is something. Nothing is better than not doing something. This is something I would really like you to try to do. Try to set aside time for you, right? Because the more that you can set aside time for you, the more you develop a habit, the more you begin to crave it. You begin to crave it so much more that 5 minutes then turns into 10 minutes, and 10 minutes then turns into 20 minutes, and 20 minutes then turns into 40 minutes. It becomes habit forming. And then it's something that you want to do repeatedly over and over and over and over again. Recognize that our present moment, everything that we do in the present moment, the choices and the decisions that we make, the thoughts that we have, the things that we feel, creates our future. You can't change the past. The past is in the past. Whatever transpired back then, you must leave it there. But if you want a different future, it all starts with now. You must learn to be in the now. Understand that there is a time and a season for everything in your life. Not everything is meant to be like the way it is for everyone else. Recognize that your time and your season is completely different from everyone else's, right? And you need to learn to embrace whatever season that you're in, right? Recognize that you cannot plant spring flowers in the winter, right? Because the winter is about resting. The winter is about hibernating. You have to wait for the right moment before you begin to plant. You can't harvest in the summer. You can only do it in the fall, right? It's really about recognizing what season are you in your life. And whatever season you're in your life, you embrace that season. You recognize and honor that season. Honor where you are in that season. Now, my next thing is this. If you have not found that perfect someone, know that they're out there somewhere for you. Know that wholeheartedly. They are out there somewhere for you. But what you need to focus on right now, my friends, is focus on where you are. Allow yourself the time to heal. And allow yourself the time to grow and expand into your true, authentic self. We might not like where we are, and we might not understand why we are where we are. but we have to learn to embrace it with an open heart and an open mind, because there is a purpose and there is a reason for it. Understand that sometimes energies aren't matched up, right? So don't regret the past. Understand that those individuals, those relationships that are no longer a part of your life, were in your life for a season. They were in your life for a reason, for a purpose, to teach you something. But now, as you go upon your life and in your journey, your energies are no longer in alignment, okay? Understand that the one that is meant for you will show up when you least expect it. It will show up. And a prime example of that is me and my wife. You know, I was in a state in my life where I hated men. I wanted nothing to do with men. And I was not even thinking about being in a relationship whatsoever. That was just not going to happen. I was really at a point in my life where I was planning on spending the rest of my life by myself. And I was perfectly okay with that. Perfectly okay with that. And then all of a sudden, without even planning it, without even expecting it, I was just living my life, trying to be happy, doing what I wanted to do. And without even expecting anything, it just happened out of nowhere. When you least expect things, my friends, is when they show up. The more that you start focusing on you, the more that you start working on you and you start elevating yourself and healing yourself and leveling yourself up, you're going to be so surprised how many people start randomly showing up when you're not even expecting it. Because the thing is, you're working on you. You're not chasing something. When you stop chasing something, it chases you. Allow that to sink in for a second. The moment you stop chasing something, it chases you. Know that as you go through this, right, it's really about you working on you. Concentrate on you. Focus on your growth. Heal from your old wounds. Balance out your beliefs. Really climb that mountain of self. Begin the process of asking yourself those hard questions. Really start looking at the dark aspects of yourself. Listen, observe, and be willing to see the truth as it is revealed to you. And once you do that, once you start really focusing on what you're on you, because then you start to realize, you know what, this is what I deserve. I deserve this because I'm worth this. And once you do that, you'll never settle for anything less than that. So that, my friends, is part 3. I know it might have been a little rough. It is a lot of content to put in, but that is part 3. Part 4 will be about the divine masculine energy and wounding from a wounded masculine energy. And then part 5 will be the divine feminine. I have to break them up. But that is all that we have today for part 3. I thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time with our new message. Namaste, guys.